Hey, what's up, investors? Welcome to the Semiconductor Show, where we talk about all stocks related to the semiconductor industry. Today, I have a great show for us. We're going to be talking about my 5 favorite semiconductor stocks, and those are AMD, NVDA, TSM, ASML, and Intel. So we're going to just do a very quick analysis of those 5 companies and then look for a potential buying opportunity when we get to the stock analysis portion for each one of those. And so this graphic that I have on the screen right here, this is just a representation of ASML's prediction of where they see the industry going, and breaks it down into each individual segment. So just for an example, here at the bottom we have the smartphone industry. So for me, that's more representative of 5G. That's one of our buzzwords in terms of industry growth. And in 2020, it went from, it's at right around $116 billion, and ASML is projecting that in 2030 it should grow to 210. And so we're going to flip back and forth between this, but let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with AMD. And so AMD for this week, they started at about 109 and they're currently at 101. And then even for this past month, they had a peak at about 125 and they're all the way back to 101. So let's just go into their technical analysis and just kind of see where they're at. So this one is AMD. You can see they're on a downtrend. And the reason why I like this, we'll actually flip back to this chart. They're in the server and data center industry. So that's the salmon color at the pink, or the salmon / pink color at the top. That's projected to grow from 76 billion all the way to 187 billion in the next 10 years. And so that's AMD's sector. That's one of them. They're hitting a couple of these. The yellow, that's personal computing. They're in there. I want to say they're in consumer electronics also. That's the blue. So the blue is projected to go about double. That salmon pink color, that's like 2.5x. And the yellow is like 30%. So the yellow is very low. But focusing on AMD as far as buying point. So you can see we have a very thick blue line right at about $100. So this is like perfect buying opportunity for AMD. I bought some of this today. I bought some yesterday, I think, too. So this one, and once again, these bars are each week, so just keep that in mind. And so overall for AMD, I'm saying this is a buying opportunity. I've said before, if you can get this under, say, 107, I think that's a great time to buy. I just can't imagine that it hasn't broken below $100 since July of last year. If it does, even a better opportunity to buy. But I think we're going to see it kind of flatten out. It's likely going to just bounce between this 100 to 115 range, at least for a while. We do have the next quarter's reports coming at the end of the month, so that will kind of give us an idea, and I'll make a video for that where we just kind of talk about what were they supposed to do, what did they actually do in terms of like revenue and income, and then where they're supposed to go come next quarter. But overall, just for AMD, yeah, this is a time to buy right around 100. If you can get below 107, I think it's good. And so right now it's like perfect. 100, you're right at a resistance line. This is a time to buy. Moving on to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, they started the week at like 270. It dropped all the way down to like 230. For the past month, they had a peak at about 285, and once again they're back at 230. So let's just briefly go into them. Actually, let's go back to their the projection for the next 10 years. So NVIDIA, I would say they're in artificial intelligence. That's like their main bread and butter. I'm not sure. I guess that kind of touches on a variety of these, because AI is definitely in computing, it's in automotive, smartphone and consumer probably, industrial, I would imagine, and data center. NVIDIA is in almost all of these. So this entire growth, I mean, this is all related to NVIDIA. The only one that I think they don't really get involved with is smartphones, but all the other ones they have some sort of connection with. So now let's go into their technical analysis. So, sorry. All right, here we go. So you can see I have a strong line at 205. That's this thick line down here. I just can't imagine it going that low. But the way it's trending, yeah, I mean, this trend line that we drew in here a while ago, you can see we're back on point with that. And so in many regards, this is a great time to buy. I know in a previous video, I said if you can get this one under 267, I thought that was a great opportunity. One other thing for NVIDIA, this currently has a PE ratio of about 60. It used to be at 80. So if we can get this below 60, or even just around, I don't want to, say hold off until it goes below 230 when it's at 231. I mean, this is a great opportunity to buy, in my opinion, coming at around 60 when it used to be 80. And this company has tremendous growth, in my opinion. So I think this is a solid time to buy. Earnings are scheduled in May, so they're actually a little off there. Most are going to report around the end of April, but they're next month. But going back to their the stock analysis here, based on some of my lines, we have a faint line in here at about 227, and there wasn't much to go off of there. I really just picked that line because we had a little bit of resistance or of support here at a 227, and also a little bit of resistance back in like the third to fourth quarter of 2021, and then all of a sudden it shot off, and now we're in this decline. And once again, I drew this decline in here, and it looks like we're like touching it almost. And so in many regards, I'm saying this is a good time to buy here. If you wanted to hold out, yeah, I mean, it could definitely test back to close to 205. I mean, will it actually drop that low? I can't imagine that, but hey, I mean, the way the whole the macroeconomics of the market's going, it very well may drop back to that level. Overall, though, I think this is a decent time to buy too. It could drop lower, maybe close to 220. It's a decent. We'll leave that there. But yeah, so we have solid support at 205. We have this trend line, and once again, I wouldn't put too much weight on this because, I can just tweak this line however I want. It just happened to kind of line up that way. But right now, I'd say now's a good time because I was saying before anything below 267 was a solid time to buy, and now this one's all the way down to 230, which also happens to be right around another resistance / support line at about 227. I have it drawn in there. So the fact that it's that close, I think this is another decent time to buy. Yeah, so I bought some of this today too. So if you're interested, this is a decent time for you to buy here. The next one, we have TSM. This one is below $100. So this is a solid time to buy for this one too. I'm just going to give you a heads up. So in the past week, it was at about 105 at a high point, dropped all the way down to now 99. And in the past month, it had a high point about 110, and now it's at 100. If we go back to our initial growth of the industry, so TSM by default, they're in all these industries because TSM is a fabrication company. So all these companies such as AMD, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Broadcom, all of those pure semiconductor companies, even Intel, they all go to TSM to get their products made. So TSM, by default, they're in all of these. So if AMD's growing, if NVIDIA's growing, if Intel's growing, that means TSM is growing. So the fact that this one's getting hit so hard is kind of a shock to me. And if we go to their stock analysis, man, it's been a little while since we touched on this one. So let's draw in a trend line here, and we'll just kind of draw it like this. Very steep, decline in growth here. I'm very surprised by this. Mainly, another thing with TSM is, as far as the fabrication industry, TSM owns over 50% market share in that industry. So the fact that it's getting hit this hard, I'm just very surprised. We'll see what their quarterly report looks like. If we go back to theirs, they do not have, I'm pretty sure they report in the end of April, but it's just not listed here. But so going back to our stock analysis, I do have a support line. I had a strong one at 107. They broke that, and that was just based off, it seemed like they were bouncing off it for a few months here, since pretty much all of 2021. They just wouldn't drop below 107, and now all of a sudden 100 seems to be the new line. I do have a very faint line. I'm not sure if you can really see it. I'll make it a little bit thicker just for today's sake. But I do have a line at 97, and we're closing in on that mark. To me, if anytime it's below 107, I think that's a good time to buy. But once again, I do have another support line here at 97. So we're at 99. I think this is a great time to buy for this one also. How far will it go? No telling, because just the way the market's going at this point, there's no telling. The next support line that I have beyond 97 is at $82. And that was just based off of this little bit of resistance they had here in like second quarter of 2020. I mean, that's like almost 2 years ago. So, you know, I'm not putting too much stock, but the way this is trending down, you know, we'll just see how this plays out. I'm a big fan of buying this one. I just feel like it's cheap. If we look at their PE ratio, 25, it used to be like 30 to 35. So now that it's less than 25, I think this is a solid buy here. It's pretty cheap, less than $100. I'm for this. I bought some of this also. Moving on to ASML. So ASML, they started off at about 680. They're now at 610. And if we go to their last month, they peaked at about 705, and now they're at 610. So this one is going up and down like crazy, just like all the others. And this one's PE ratio is 40. It's less than 40. It's actually at 39. They're reporting, they don't have their earnings date either. I'm pretty sure they're reporting at the end of April too. I guess don't quote me on that, because I thought it would be listed here. But let's go into ASML's stock analysis. And actually, before we do, so this semiconductor chart that shows what each individual end market segment's growth, this chart was produced by ASML. So this is their forecast of where they see the industry heading in each one of those end markets. And so ASML, they're in the lithography department. So once again, just like TSM, by default, they are in all of these industries also, because ASML, if I can kind of draw you, like, imagine a chain of how the products work, it's basically ASML creates this machine that can draw on the fabrication chips. They basically can etch in the pattern that's needed to kind of tell the chip what to do, what's its purpose, and then they sell their machines to like a TSM, and then TSM will then draw the design, make it so that it works the way it's meant to, and then they sell that product to the NVDA, the AMD, the Intel, whoever it is. And so then you have, once again, the bottom level, which is AMD, who then they sell it into the cars or the phones or whatever the product is. So that's kind of the chain of command here, and ASML is at the top. So they're a company that's benefiting just from company-wide growth in total. And just like all the others, they're kind of in a downtrend too. We have a few more support lines in here. We are nearing one of my thicker support lines at 601. That's this thick line right in here. We are very close to it. The reason I haven't bought this one is mainly because it's a $600 stock. If it was cheaper, I probably would have bought some of this, but I just don't. It's just not in the funds right now to go after a stock like this. It's one of those mid-range ones. I know like Google and Amazon sell for thousands of dollars. This one's at 600. Now that I'm seeing that this is closer to one of those support lines, I'll definitely have to move things around to try to get at least another share or two if I can before this kind of runs out. But the way things are going, who knows? This might continue to go lower. But overall, it's near one of my thicker support lines at 601, right at 610, or right at 610. So it's right there. And will it pull back a little further? Sure, it definitely can. It's just, once again, if I was looking to buy this, if I had the funds to buy this, and I saw it at 610, I'm not going to just sit there and wait for it to drop all the way to 601. I just feel like it's close enough that I would pull the trigger now, because I don't know if it's going to pull back anymore, and if it does, will it ever get to 601? I don't know. I just feel like it's right in a fair range that, yeah, I would buy it now. And I do have another faint line at 628, so it's in that zone. I do have another faint line here right at 558. Overall, this one's kind of difficult to address in terms of in terms of like support lines, and I just based that off of how fast this one shot up. I mean, there's not really much support on this steep incline it had, and now all of a sudden it's pulling back. So there's just not much support or resistance to go off of this company. But I do have some support lines in here, namely at 610 and at 670. So 610, that's more of like I'd be looking to buy. 670 would be potential time to sell. If it can go above that 670, I mean, we can test all the way back up to 900. And so that's kind of my idea with taking a stock like this, is buying it at 600. It could easily drive back up to 900 in the coming months. We just need to see the new projections as it comes out. And especially one of the things about ASML that I like is Intel, TSM, and Samsung, those fabrication companies, they're all investing in building new factories. And those new factories, guess what they're going to need? They're going to need lithography devices. So they're going to make a lot of money here in the next couple years, probably like 3-4 years. They're going to be cranking out machines, and there's also new chips coming out. Right now, the chips they're talking about how the 7 nanometer chips and the 5 nanometer chips are like the hot product on the market. They're already working on 2 nanometer and 3 nanometer chips. And when those come out, guess what? They're going to need new, more advanced equipment. And there you go. ASML is going to be getting tons of sales. But let's move on to Intel. This is our main, or our last stock. Not the main one, but the last one. So for this week, they were at 49 at one point, dropped all the way to 47. And for the month, they had a peak at around 52. And here they are back at 47. This one didn't move that much. Intel is they're just very, they don't move around that much. They stay in a pretty short range, normally about $45 to $55. But Intel's doing a lot of moves that kind of give me the impression that they're going to make a push to really have a revenue generating business. They make tons of money, probably like $80 billion each quarter, or maybe that's per year. I think it's per quarter, but they're making these moves that they're trying to get their growth to shift from what currently is about like 1 to 3% growth. They're trying to push that into like a double-digit type revenue growth in the next 2 or 3 years. So Intel, for them, they're moving into the data center and storage. They're in automotive. Technically, they have like a mobile eye company that they're like the majority investor that they're hoping is going to become public in the next quarter, I want to say, in the second quarter, maybe third quarter. Obviously, they're in personal computing. And the big thing with Intel, one of the reasons why I'm started to get interested in them is that they're trying to shift into the TSM business, which is that fabrication chip design type company. They do that in-house, but they're trying to expand into going just like a TSM. So maybe AMD will come to them. NVIDIA's already said they'd be very interested in working with Intel. So Intel could gain market share by taking revenue away from TSM. So that's a competition we'll have to look at in the near term. Right now, as far as fabrications, that's really just TSM and Samsung. So Intel, if they're going to move in, I feel like they're going to snatch up decent market share pretty quick. It's just which company are they going to take shares away from. The one drawback with Intel is I feel like they're not going to have the advanced technology as TSM, at least not right away. But of course, this is like 2 or 3 years down the road, so we'll just have to kind of keep watch for that. And so once again, so I mentioned how Intel kind of stays between this range of about 45 to 55, and you can see that here. So for the past, since about 2018, so for the past like 4 years, they've been very consistent, staying between this line that I drew in here at 43 and 56. So I just rounded it to 45, 55, just because that's easier to remember. But to get technical, it's 43 and 56. And so you can just kind of see it's floated between that range for 4 years. It has peaked around 70. I think days like that are going to come. It's just probably in the next couple years. That's when we'll see that. So overall, let's just kind of zoom in and take a closer look at where we are today. Right now, we're still definitely on that downtrend. It's at 47, and with that clear support line at 43. You know, me, I would like to buy this at $45 or less. In a previous video, I think I said something like $46.50 would be like the max I'd be willing to sell it or to buy it. And that's just, you know, based on the fact that this company's only going to basically hit 56, and then it's probably going to sell off again because I don't really know why. That's just what investors have come to understand in terms of this company, its growth, its potential growth, that if it hits like 56, that's just the time to get out. And so keeping that in mind, that's why even though it's at 47, I'm not actually going to buy this one. Like for this one, the way it moves, this one I'm going to be a little more strict on myself in terms of when I will buy this. And so, like I said, the max I would spend on this is $46.50. If you're not willing to wait for that, hey, I mean, it's at 47 right now. Like you're talking 50 cents. This one's a dividend stock also. That's another reason why I bought it. They have like a 2, maybe 3% dividend, 3% dividend. So you're going to make some money along the way just for them doing what they do. In terms of the support line, once again, I just drew that in. I can wiggle this around any way I want. So I wouldn't put too much stock in there. I just kind of threw it in there. But it is below that line that I just kind of randomly placed. So if you want to put some weight behind that, you can. But in terms of just where I'm looking to buy this, that's my answer. $46.50, that would be the max I'd spend on this, preferably less than 45. And I just can't imagine this one going below 43.69. That seems to be a solid support line. And honestly, 45 is like is just as firm of support. So yeah, that pretty much wraps this up. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, please subscribe. There's also a Webull link in the description. If you don't have an account, if you'd like to open one, if you use that link, you'll get 5 free stocks. So please consider it. And otherwise, I hope you have a great night. See you guys.